guys, Samar on this side, back again with new tutorial video. In this video, we are going to learn the Google Authentication with Firebase in our Flutter application. So let's start the video. So guys, in the last video, we see about the email and password authentication with Firebase in our Flutter app. In case you don't see the last video, I highly recommended you to see the last video, because not for the email and password authentication, but for the setup of Firebase in your Flutter app. In case you don't know how to set up a Firebase project in your Flutter app, I will highly recommend you to go through from the last video. That will help you to understand how to set up Firebase with your Flutter app, because in this video I am not going to repeating the steps again, that will lost of time. So please see the last video in case you don't see it yet. Okay, so in the last video, if you remember, we created that Firebase project name as Learning Auth, and here under that project setting that you find here, we actually added two keys at the bottom. Here SHA1 and SHA256 key we added in the last video. Okay, so that's key actually very much necessary for the Google authentication as well. So don't forget to add these keys in the project settings of your Firebase project. Okay, now what you have to do for the Google authentication, we have to come to that authentication tab. In case that authentication tab is not showing here in that project shortcuts, you have to click on that build, and here you can see the authentication tab. Okay, now in the authentication section, as you know, in the user section, all of the registered user that already sign up or getting authenticated will be show here. So in the last video, from that sign in method, we enable the email and password. Now we have to add the new provider for that. So that's new provider is for the Google. So I click on that Google, and here I just click on that enable button. After that, you have to click on the save, so that Google authentication for our Firebase project will be getting initiated. So as you can see, now Google authentication is activated along with email and password. So if we done the Google authentication, all the users will be shown here under that users tab, just like that email provider is showing. Now for using Google authentication in our Flutter app, we have to come to the pub.tab, and here you have to install that package Google Sign-in. So that will help you to work with Google Sign-in. Okay, so what you have to do, you don't have to follow any of that as of now. We can manage it through that package of Firebase Auth. So we already done that in the last video. So in case you go through the last video, you don't have to worry all about that. Okay, now you have to just copy the package name, and here what you have to do, come to the prospect.yaml, and under that prospect.yaml, and here under that dependencies section, just paste it here, and from the terminal you have to run our favorite command to install the packages, that is flutter pub get. So it will take a few times to install the packages. So guys, as you can see, that package is installed successfully from the terminal. Now before the running app, we can make a separate method where we can handle the Google sign-in, so that we can separate that Google sign-in long method from our widget tree. So for that, what we have to do, we have to come to the library folder. Under that library folder, we have to make a new folder named as auth, and here under that auth folder, name a file named as Google Auth.dart. And here in that Google Auth file, what you have to do, you can import our favorite package material.dart, and here you have to make a class name as Google Auth. Along with that package, you have to import that currently installed package, that is Google signin.dart. Now you have to call the class constructor for the Google sign-in, and here of that class constructor that actually accept scope. So what that scopes, just like when you use that Google authentication in a different app, you may see when you click on that button, the pop-up will be generated, and their user email and user email pic is showing that, because if any mail is open in your device, that Gmail actually show when you click on that button in that pop-up, that email along with that profile picture is shown there. So we have to define the scope for that. So that scope will be a list, and here we have to add that. So that will be that link, googleapis.com auth user info.email, because we need that email. Along with that email, we need one more thing. We also need the user profile info, just like user profile picture or name related things. So we need that two things, user email and user profile, through that Google sign-in scope. Okay, so in that way we can define the object for that. Now what we have to do, we have to make a method for that, just like sign in, because we want to sign in with Google. So under the sign in method, what you have to do, Google sign in is signed in. So that will return if a person is signed in or not. Okay, and here if you hover it, you can see this is a awaiting process, so you have to write await, and here make the method as async. So if the user is already signed in, that case maybe happen in the future, just like if you sign in and then you forget about the sign out of the user, that condition may be arrived there. So you have to check if user is already signed in, we don't have to keep them forward. So we can show a message through a scaffold messenger dot of context dot show snack bar, and snack bar having the text of already signed in. Okay, now you have to take the context from that method as well, because we need that method, we need that context to show that. So we have to show that message, and you can return from it here, so we don't have to give them forward. Now one more thing, keep that always within a exception handling, because maybe in that Google sign in due to the internet problem or other things, maybe error maybe arrived there. Okay, so here in that cat method, if there is any problem is came out, so we have to for the debugging purpose, we have to write here error in Google sign in. Okay, and that's way. Okay, now here come here, and after that message is Google sign in is not for applicable for the user. Now we have to proceed for that sign in of Google for the user. Okay, so how can we do that? So here we have to check user data. So here we have to write if Google sign in dot sign in. Okay, that will be actually open a pop-up, and if you select any of that Gmail from that pop-up, that user data will be written, that user data will be contain that selected Gmail information. Okay, so there is a chance that user data is coming as null, because if you don't select any of the Gmail and you just close the pop-up by back clicking, so no user data will be returned. So there is a chance of that user data is coming null. So if user data is coming null, we don't have to give them forward. So instead of that, we have to return from here and also show a message that Google sign in failed, Google sign in failed as user data not found. Cool. Now if we come here at line number 27, that means user data is found, that means user choose any of the Gmail of it. So we have to now take the information from that Gmail, and we have to with that information do Firebase authentication with Google provider. Okay, now we have to use that user data authentication. So if you see here, retrieve Google sign in authentication for that account, so that Google sign in authentication data for that account will be retrieved, and from that we can get many more keys and many more authentication keys as well. Okay, so we have to take the data from here. So I write auth data, and that will be awaiting process. So if you hover on it, you can see it is a future method, so it will awaiting data. We have to make the OAuth credential for signing with Firebase through the Google provider. So what we have to do, we have to write Google Auth provider dot credential. Here we have to provide the ID token as well as that access token. Now what we have to do here, in the ID token we have to write auth data dot ID token, and here in the access token we have to write auth data dot access token. Okay, we have to take this through a variable. So here I write auth cred, that means auth credential. Okay, and as you can see, if we hover on that, that is OAuth credential data is showing, and we have to end it with semicolon as well. Now it's the time to register that authentication credentials with the Firebase for getting authentication through Google provider. So how can we authenticate through that data with Firebase? We have to write Firebase auth and make sure that package is imported at the top, Firebase auth dot. Okay, because that is needed now. So Firebase auth dot instance, and now we have to write sign in with credential, and we have to pass here the auth credential. So we can pass here auth create. Okay, so let's see what that will be returned. It will return the user credential but with future, so we have to make it await. Now we have to write here user create, because after getting login with Google it will return that user credential. Okay, so we can copy that of that type and we can paste it here so that it will be help us to understand better. We can simply return all of the data. So here we can return name. So here I write dot user dot display name. Okay, so that will return the Gmail registered name that that you selected. Okay, now email user create dot user dot email and the data, and here the profile pic user create dot user dot photo URL, and you can extract as much data as much possible. I just extract the important data here that is widely used for making the authentication purpose as well. And before returning that from here, we can copy any of the scaffold message and we have to show user actually a particular thing that yes, you are getting authenticated with Google. So you have to write here Google sign in as it is, and here successful, Google sign in successful. Okay, now here we have to make the return type of string dynamic, and we have to change the return type from here as well. So what we can do here, we have to write dynamic. Okay, now there is a catch that if that from that catch block what that will be returned. So we can return a empty string here, and also the type of return dynamic we have to copy that thing, and in case of is there any of the return, we have to just replace with that. Okay, so okay, the error is now gone, and we can make that static because we can use now that from that class name, and for making that static we have to make that also static, because that from the static method the static object can be accessible. Okay, now we are all set for the sign in. Now we have to make a method for the log out or sign out from the Google authentication. How can we do that? Very simple. We have to make that method as static for using from the directly from the class name. So here I write log out. Okay, and here we can, instead of that method, we can make a getter because there is no parameter is passed as of now. Now how can we log out from there? Now we have to write here await and Google sign in dot disconnect at first, so that will be disconnected from the Google sign in, and after that we have to log out from the Google sign in, so we have to write or betterly to say sign out. And now we have to log out from that Firebase auth, because we after getting authenticated with Google auth provider, we take the auth create, and we also from that auth create getting sign in with Firebase auth. Okay, so for that Google provider, so we have to sign out from that Google Firebase auth as well. So we have to write Firebase auth dot instance dot sign out. Here in that way you can make the logout for that. Okay, so all of the condition is maintained as of now. Now we have to make two buttons here, sign in with Google and sign out from Google, so that we can maintain the calling of that method we made here. So what we have to do, we have to come to the main screen, and I'm not using any of the Google logo as of now, so I make a decent button here. So how can we do that? We in the last video, if you can remember, we make a common method for that of that button. So let's see where that button is exist. So that button is common button. Now what I can do here, I just copy the last two lines under that column of main screen, and here I write here sign in with Google, and also make a copy of another, and here I write sign out from Google, and here, so here I write sign in with Google, that method here. We make the method here at the bottom of the class, and that will be Google auth dot sign in. Here the context will be specified, and that method will be asynchronous and having the await of type. So here that will be return map of string dynamics, so that Google Auth data. Okay, now we can show that data in the dialog. Just copy that show dialog method so that we can show the data. The 3D data will become, that is email, profile picture, and also the email link. So here we have to first check one thing, if there is a chance that Google sign in is not successful. So if that Google sign in, Google Auth data is empty, we don't have to show any message because we already maintained that in that second file Google Auth.dot. So we have to return from it directly. But if this is not empty, that means Google sign in is successful and their data is come here. Now here what we have to do, here we have to in the title show Google login data, and here what you have to do, after the title make a content for that, and having the container of width covering the maximum that can coverage, and having the height of 250, let's say, and in the alert dialog we make insert padding, and having the padding from the horizontal of 10 and vertical of 10 as well. And now what we have to do, after that in that container make all the things at the center of the screen, but that's not enough. We have to write all of the things under a column, and for under a column to define all the things at the center of the alert dialog, we have to write main axis alignment dot center. Okay, now what we have to do, here we have to write, we have to make the font size here 20, and we can copy the things from here, and here what we have to do, in the children we make that font size as 16, that will be good enough. And here we have to write email, that will be, we have to provide the email at first here, that is coming from that Google Auth data. So here I write Google Auth data email, and here if that email key is not present, that will be show a empty string here. Okay, in the same way we have to define another text method for name and profile image. So I first give here a significant space so that it will be looking good. Having the space of 5 is very much good for now. Now we have to copy that two things and making the copy of 2. Okay, now here we have to profile, we have to write name, and here I also write here name. Instead of that showing of profile picture link, we can show the profile picture. So I can remove that last of the things. So we can do one more thing here. We can show the image as top with the circle. So here I write circle avatar, and here in that circle avatar I make a radius of, let's say, 20, and here the background color I specified as colors dot, we can specify the color as colors dot gray with having a opacity of 0.4. okay, now what we have to do, after that background color we have to provide the background image, and that image basically a network image. So we have to write network image, and here we have to provide the URL. So here we have to write Google Auth data, and let's say what the key we specified. So the key name is profile underscore pic. So what we have to do, so here I provide that profile link, and here I just make the null safety, because if the link is not present, that will not giving you error. And I think that is all for now. Hit constant so that the error warning will be removed. Remove that. Okay, now one more thing is left, that is sign in with Google. Now we have to make another method for sign out from Google. Okay, and for that you don't have to do any of the things of another method. We have to write here Google Auth dot logout. Okay, now here is a catch, that there will be a chance of error during the logout, so we have to do with that exception handling as well. Now if we just cut it here, and we have to paste it here, and here if there is any error came, we can do one more thing here. We can copy from that catch block, and here we have to write it in that way. Okay, so now we have to take context. Now we can remove the getter because we need the param. So here I write build context. Okay, now here if I write here Google logout error. Okay, so the error will be so here, but we also maintain our things here. Sign out is successful, we have to write. Now we have to write here, if the sign out is successful, we have to write Google logout successful. There is no error will be come at that point of time. So here I write Google logout successful. Okay, and that is a hard coded message, so you have to make it constant as of now. Okay, so here if you come here at the logout, so we have to make it method and we have to provide the context here as well. Okay, now I think all the things is done for the Google authentication. Now one thing is left, that we have to run the project, otherwise we can't test it here. So let's run from the terminal. For that we have to write our special command flutter run to run our project in the app. And one more thing here, that running will be take a little bunch of extra seconds, because during the run the Gradle build and Gradle download operation is going on. So in case you see the last video, you know how to do the manual Gradle build from the Android Studio, so you can manually do that. After that you can run the project, or you can directly run the project. That will take a bunch of extra seconds but automatically build that. So let's wait for it's getting run in our device. So what I done here, I just close that because it is already opened before. So let's wait for running it at first in our physical device. So guys, our project is already started. As you can see, 2 buttons appear here, and now our first agenda is we first sign in with Google, and if the sign in with Google is successful, then we will try to sign out from Google, and if that two working fine, that means our operation is completed. So what we have to do, if we click on that sign in with Google button, so a pop-up will be came here. Now as you can see, 2 emails is popping up. Now I choose the first email. It will take a little bit of time to authenticate with Firebase. Now as you can see, Google sign in successful, and here as the Google sign in is successful, the message is showing here about the picture of that email, the email and the name here. So the picture is very much small, so what we can do, instead of making it radius very much small, I can make the radius as 50 so that it will be looking good. Instead of the 50, so we make the radius as 45 so that it will be looking good. Now if we click on that sign in with Google, you can see this is showing already signed in, because we are already signed in. So now we have to first sign out from Google. So as you can see, Google logout successful, so login and logout working successfully. Now if we click on the sign in with Google again, so before that we make a hot reload for that, and let's see if that picture is coming at the big size of or not. So what we have to do, we have to click on that sign in with Google again, and now we have to choose the email. I choose the first email. Now it will take a little bit of time, and here you can see Google sign in successful at the bottom, and after that you can see the picture is showing at the somewhat decent, and that email and that the name is showing. So Google sign in and sign out successful from our physical device through that code with Firebase as well. So that's all for today. I hope you love this video. If you love this video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and don't forget to subscribe this channel. The next video of the tutorial is coming very soon. Stay tuned for that. Have a nice day. Bye.